Today we are making whiskey salted caramels. As someone who doesn't care for whiskey, I will say these are still delicious. Make sure you prep and measure out all of your ingredients and utensils before we start. Things can move really fast during this recipe, so we just want to be as ready as possible. You're going to want 2 saucepans, if you have them. In this step, we're told to start with a 1-quart saucepan, but I'm just using my saute pan, into which we're going to combine 5 tablespoons of butter, 1 cup of heavy whipping cream, a 1/4 cup of whiskey, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt, or another coarse salt. If you don't have coarse salt, I would use 1/8 of a teaspoon. We're going to bring this mixture to a boil, and we're going to keep stirring it until it comes to that boil. Then we're going to turn our heat off and remove this mixture, set it aside. We will need it later, but we're done with it for now. And then we want a 3-quart saucepan. Make sure you have a pan that has higher sides and make sure it's at least 3 quarts. In here, we're going to add 1.5 cups of white sugar, a 1/4 cup of light corn syrup, and a 1/4 cup of water. Now, we're going to mix this all together, and I'm going to make sure mine is mixed together before I even turn my heat on. And that is the last time I'm going to stir this. So I'm going to turn my heat on to medium high, and we're going to bring this to a boil. Do not stir it. We're going to let it continue to boil until the sugar turns a warm golden brown. Now, I didn't realize this, but the recipe that I was originally using was slightly modified from another recipe. And the original recipe gives us further instructions than just saying boil it until the sugar is a warm golden brown. We are told to heat the sugar to 310 degrees. So you definitely need a candy thermometer for this recipe. I got mine for about $10 from my grocery store. This will prevent you having to just guess, which I was very worried during this cooking process. I was worried that it was going to burn and I would ruin my caramels. Thankfully, I did not. But the reason we don't stir it is because the sugar will crystallize. We don't want that to happen. We want these nice chewy caramels, which these will turn out to be if you get your temperatures spot on. And this is really a science. Having your temperature slightly higher or lower, especially in our final step, will really affect the final texture, chewiness, or firmness of your caramels. So once you have reached your nice warm golden brown or 310 degrees, we're going to turn our heat off and slowly add the cream mixture. Be very careful. As you can see, it's going to bubble up, and at this point you can stir. Don't worry, we will no longer be crystallizing. And we need to heat this to 248 degrees. So I'm going to pop my candy thermometer into my pan, and if you've never used a candy thermometer, we want to make sure we're taking the temperature at the center of our mixture. If the bead of your thermometer is sitting on the bottom of the pan, it's giving you the temperature of your pan. So mine was sitting on the bottom. So every time I needed to take the temperature, I lifted the bead up off of the bottom of the pan and waited a moment, and I could see the temperature coming down a little bit. So this may take a while. At first I had my heat on medium low and my temperature was just not going up. So I eventually turned my heat up to medium, and I eventually got to 248 degrees. And for this, I just continued to stir throughout. Then once you reach your 248 degrees, pour the mixture right into a pan that you have lined with parchment or foil, and make sure you spray it with cooking spray or else these caramels will stick. And we're gonna let it sit for 10 minutes before we sprinkle it with salt. After those 10 minutes, again, I'm taking coarse kosher salt. You could use fine sea salt if you want, and sprinkle the top generously. I probably used 1.5 teaspoons, but just eyeball it. You don't want it completely covered like a layer of snow. That would be way too much salt, but it'll look just right. And you don't want to wait much longer than 10 minutes for your first cool, because the top of your caramel will harden and your salt will not sink in and stick a little bit, which you want. So from here, we need our caramels to cool completely. This may take a few hours. I did not put mine in the fridge. I just let them cool at room temperature. But once they are cool, we can go ahead and cut them. Cutting them is a little bit interesting. I found that if you cut down with your knife and then pull your knife back towards you instead of trying to lift it up, it's much easier to get your knife out of the caramel. I also tried putting some cooking spray on my knife, and it helped a little bit, but just pulling the knife back instead of pulling it up was what worked for me. If you have any tips on cutting caramels, leave them down below in the comments. And then these caramels are ready to eat. Once you cut them up, you can fold them in some wax paper or some parchment paper and keep them for yourself in an airtight container, or I like to give these as gifts around Christmas time. I will leave all of the ingredients and the instructions and the links to the original recipes down below for you guys. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you would try these caramels. They may seem a little intimidating, but like I said, make sure you have your pans ready, make sure you have all of your ingredients ready and measured out, make sure you have a candy thermometer. If things seem to be getting a little too extreme for you, don't be afraid to turn your heat down a little bit, but trust the process and watch the temperature. Thanks so much for watching. If you're looking for another delicious recipe, go ahead, click or tap the screen, and I will see you guys there.